Abnormal wound healing. Various factors can adversely affect wound healing. C. Phagocytosis and reconstruction. Some wounds fail to heal in a timely and orderly manner, resulting in chronic non-healing wounds, significant morbidity and poor cosmesis. On the other hand, aberrations of normal wound healing such as prolonged inflammation can result in excessive scar tissue, for example hypertrophic and keloid scars. These abnormal scars contain excess collagen, which is arranged in a disorganized pattern in keloid scars as opposed to a parallel pattern in hypertrophic scars. Hypertrophic scars do not extend beyond the boundary of the original incision or wound and eventually regress. They are more common in areas of increased tension, wounds crossing tension lines, deep dermal burns and wounds left to heal by secondary intention, longer than 3 weeks. Keloid scars extend beyond the boundaries of the original incision or wound, Figure 3.5, do not spontaneously regress and are difficult to treat. The etiology is unknown but genetic predisposition is implicated. They often occur as a result of relatively minor trauma and mainly in those with darker skin pigmentation. Local and systemic factors. NFL Evincing wound healing. Filled circle. Local filled circle. Skin tension. Filled circle. Hypoxia and ischemia. Filled circle. Vascular insufficiency. Filled circle. Lymphedema. Filled circle. Contamination. Filled circle. Infection. Filled circle. Presence of foreign bodies. Filled circle. Radiotherapy. Filled circle. Systemic. Filled circle. Advancing age. Filled circle. Obesity. Filled circle. Malnutrition. Filled circle. Smoking. Filled circle. Diseases, e.g. diabetes mellitus, connective tissue diseases. Filled circle. Immunocompromised, e.g. acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Filled circle. Medications, e.g. steroids, immunosuppressants, chemotherapy. Types of wound healing. There are different types of healing. Summary box 3.2. Primary healing is also known as healing by FRST intention. This occurs when there is direct approximation of the wound edges and is the aim of treatment. When there are no adverse influences, these wounds heal well and leave the best scar. Delayed primary healing occurs when the wound edges are not opposed immediately, which may be necessary in contaminated or untidy wounds. After debridement of non-viable tissue and when the wound is clean, the wound edges may be surgically approximated. This is also called healing by tertiary intention. Secondary healing or healing by secondary intention occurs in wounds that are left open and allowed to heal by granulation, contraction and reepithelialization. Classification of wound closure and healing. Filled circle. Primary. Filled circle. Wound edges opposed. Filled circle. Normal healing. Filled circle. Minimal scar. Filled circle. Secondary. Filled circle. Wound left open. Filled circle heals by granulation, contraction and reepithelialization. Filled circle. Increased inflammation and proliferation. Filled circle. Poor scar. Filled circle. Tertiary. Delayed primary. Filled circle. Wound initially left open. Filled circle. Edges opposed later when healing conditions favorable. Classification of wounds. Wounds are diverse and there is no standard classification system that incorporates all relevant aspects for different clinical contexts. A wide variety of classifications, summary box 3.3, are used and descriptors from more than one system are required to accurately describe a given wound. A widely accepted wound classification was FRST introduced in 1964 by the U.S. National Research Council 1 to describe the degree of bacterial load or contamination of surgical wounds at the time of surgery. It was subsequently adapted by the U.S. Centers for Disease Prevention and Control 2 to classify wounds as clean, contaminated, and dirty, Table 3.1. Although the simplicity of this classification has led to its widespread use, the definitions are not entirely clear and low inter-observer reliability has been reported. Point 3. 4 various grading and scoring systems exist for specific conditions such as pressure ulcers and diabetic ulcers. The National Nosocomial Infections Surveillance (NNIS) score is commonly used to predict surgical site infections (CIS). It was established in recognition of the effectiveness of infection surveillance in reducing CIS. Point 5. The NNIS scores stratifies surgical wound infection rates by risk factors. This risk index score ranges from 0, lowest SSI risk, to 3, highest SSI risk, with a point allocated for the presence of each of the following risk factors. Class 1. Clean. Uninfected operative wounds, no inflammation is encountered. Respiratory, alimentary, genital or uninfected urinary tracts are not entered, primarily closed and, if necessary, drained using a closed system. Class 2. Clean. Contaminated. Respiratory, alimentary, genital or urinary tracts are entered under controlled conditions and without unusual contamination. No evidence of infection or major break in technique is encountered. Class 3. Classification of wounds. Wounds are diverse. Contaminated. Open, fresh, accidental wounds. Operations with major breaks in sterile technique, e.g. open cardiac massage, or gross spillage from the gastrointestinal tract. Incisions in which acute, non-purulent inflammation is encountered. Class 4. Dirty. Old traumatic wounds with retained devitalized tissue in those that involve existing clinical infection or perforated viscera. Contaminated. A dirty wound. Filled circle. American Society of Anesthesiologists score is greater than or equal to 3. Filled circle. Operative time longer than the expected duration for similar procedures, greater than 75th percentile. Wound management. Assessment. Wound management is guided by the timing and mechanism of injury as well as factors affecting healing. Summary box 3.1. It is also important to assess the patient's ideas, concerns and expectations. Patient outcomes also rely on good postoperative compliance. Assess the patient using advanced trauma life support principles to FRST. Identify and treat life and then limb-threatening conditions. Some wounds require a multidisciplinary approach. For example, the involvement of orthopedic surgeons and plastic surgeons in managing complex open lower limb fractures. Point 6. Assess the site, size, geometry and nature of any wounds. Look for signs of contamination, infection, swelling and pulsatile bleeding. Deformities may suggest underlying fractures or dislocations. Has there been skin loss or degloving? What structures are visible? Thorough irrigation of wounds will allow better visualization. It is important to correlate the clinical examination with the mechanism of injury. Is seemingly innocuous wounds can lead to underestimation of tissue damage. For example, high-pressure injection injuries of the hand can cause significant mechanical and chemical tissue damage with risk of amputation. The injected substances can track proximally into the forearm. Urgent surgical exploration and debridement is required. Before palpation, ensure that the patient has adequate analgesia or a local anesthetic block. When possible, it is important to assess motor and sensory function before any local anesthesia. Unless there are obvious muscle injuries, the purpose of testing specific muscle groups is to evaluate potential nerve or tendon injuries. Imaging is useful to exclude foreign bodies, fractures or dislocations where appropriate. Principles. Clinical judgment is crucial in managing wounds. Some general principles of wound management are summarized in Table 3.2. Antibiotic prophylaxis is needed for clean contaminated and dirty wounds. It may also be used in clean wounds when there is a high risk of infection or when the sequelae of infection are potentially disastrous. Tetanus prophylaxis should be given based on the type of wound, Table 3.3, and immunization status, Figure 3.6. Principles of wound management. Preparation. Antibiotic prophylaxis, tetanus prophylaxis. Adequate analgesia, anesthesia, wound irrigation. Wound. Early debridement and irrigation exploration repair structures hemostasis. Closure. Skin closure without tension, consider reconstruction options. Suture choice, consider drains, optimal dressings. Follow-up. Removal of sutures, splints, physiotherapy. Monitoring for complications, scar management. Tetanus-prone wounds. Point 7. Puncture-type injuries in a contaminated environment. Filled circle bites, filled circle compound fractures, filled circle containing foreign bodies, filled circle wounds or burns with systemic sepsis. High-risk tetanus-prone wounds. Any tetanus-prone wound with filled circle heavy contamination, e.g. soil or manure. Filled circle wound requiring surgery with greater than 6-hour delay. Filled circle extensive devitalized tissue. Debridement is essential to remove any devitalized tissue and foreign material from the wound. Non-viable tissue must be excised until healthy bleeding occurs at the wound edges. The importance of thorough debridement is often underappreciated and is not as simple as is often perceived. All wounds should be irrigated. The endpoints of surgical debridement can sometimes be difficult to determine. Healthy subcutaneous fat is yellow and soft. Muscle viability is judged by its color, capacity to bleed and contractility. Contaminated, complex and complicated wounds often require more than one surgical debridement before definitive repair and closure. For example, blast injuries and necrotizing fasciitis, see Part 4. Other types of debridement are summarized in Table 3.4. Types of debridement. Surgical. Excision of non-viable tissue using surgical instruments such as a scalpel, curette, scissors or wronger until healthy bleeding occurs at the wound edges. Mechanical. Non-selective debridement such as using irrigation, wet-to-dry dressings and hydrotherapy. Both non-viable and viable tissue may be removed. Autolytic. Using dressings such as hydrocolloids or transparent FLMS to retain moisture and allow wound enzymes to selectively liquefy non-viable tissue. Enzymatic. Chemically liquefy necrotic tissue with enzymes using topical agents such as collagenase or papinuria. Biological. Medical grade larvae of Lucilia sericata release proteolytic and antimicrobial substances to remove necrotic tissue. They also directly promote wound healing. All wounds should be irrigated at the FRST available OPA. Opportunity to reduce bacterial contamination. This also allows BET. Tear visualization for wound assessment. Warm normal saline. Is typically used, although other irrigation fluids are available such as water and antiseptic solutions. Irrigation can also be performed with a soft brush or sponge to clear particulate matter prior to preoperative application of skin antiseptic preparation. Wounds should be explored to determine the extent of injury, including any damage to underlying neurovascular structures, tendons, joints and bones. Careful tissue handling and meticulous technique are important throughout. Repair of all damaged structures may be attempted once the wounds are clean. Repair of nerves and vessels should be performed under magnification using loupes or a microscope. Skin closure should always be without tension. Direct closure is not always possible and other reconstruction methods should be considered. Historically, the reconstructive ladder and its variants such as the reconstructive elevator 8 have been used as a framework to consider the simplest means to achieve wound closure for the desired goal. Advances in technology and surgical techniques have led to ongoing adjustments of these frameworks. Although these frameworks do not guide the selection of a particular technique over another, they provide a useful reminder of the options available. Summary Box 3.4. A skin graft has no inherent blood supply and is dependent on a well-vascularized recipient site for survival and wound healing. Split-thickness skin grafts, Figure 3.7, consist of the epidermis and a small portion of dermis, whereas full-thickness skin grafts consist of the epidermis and the majority of the dermis. A FAP contains tissue with its intrinsic blood supply that is transferred from one part of the body, donor, to another, recipient. The blood supply of the FAP therefore does not rely on the recipient site like a skin graft. A free FAP contains tissue with its vascular pedicle that is surgically detached and transferred from its original location to a distant recipient site, Figure 3.8. A microscope is used to perform microvascular anastomoses to connect the blood vessels in the free FAP to blood vessels close to the recipient site. Since its development in the 1990s, negative pressure wound therapy, NPWT, is now widely used. It is not a replacement for definitive wound closure but is a useful adjunct. Negative pressure helps draw the wound edges together, remove exudate, reduce edema and promote granulation tissue formation. NPWT is not recommended in the setting of exposed vessels, malignancy, untreated osteomyelitis, necrotic tissue or non-enteric and unexplored fistulae.